Morning, motivators, or actually, it's afternoon Eastern time. If you're on the West Coast, good morning to you. A little something for your mind, body, and soul today. And boy, I am so excited about what we have in store. I'm really excited about what's been happening with Motivate with Iz. Really excited about the future and what's going on in my own personal life. But that's not about me. It's for another video. Just a real quick introduction. I'm Iz. I'm a retired Command Master Chief. Just retired last year from the United States Navy. Served in the. I'm so proud to have served in the most powerful maritime force ever assembled in the history of the world. And just now, I'm a retired guy who's using his experiences and his life's view to help motivate everybody one day at a time. Maybe make my part of the world a little bit better. Who knows? Maybe we'll influence the entire world. One could only hope. So please like and follow. Just on about every platform. It's Motivate with Iz, real easy to find. And check out the shop because Love You Mean It isn't just a slogan, it's a movement. I want to make a difference. And that's really what I was talking about. Make something that people think about when they see each other and they say things like love you, mean it, and really mean it, meaning there's nothing we won't do for you. There's nothing I wouldn't do to help you out if you're in a tough spot. That's really when we show true love. All right, so I'm so excited to introduce you to Matt Thornton. I met him when I was up at Recruit Training Command Great Lakes as the Command Master Chief up there. Great Lakes is the Navy's only boot camp, and it's the Navy's only boot camp. And I was so proud to be the senior enlisted leader, essentially the lead drill instructor up there for 3 years. And I met Matt by chance when I went in to get my fingerprints. Not because I had been arrested, because he is a police officer, but because I was getting my concealed carry, and out comes this tattooed guy that looked like maybe he was screwing with me and was going to take me back and get me get me in trouble with the local police. But it turns out that he is an amazing human being. That he too is making a difference in his community. He's written a book called "Cop in Crisis." To Cop in Christ. And we're going to talk a lot about this book today. I recommend you head over to My Father's Business website, which is in the comments below, and pick up a copy of this book because it might just change your life. There's some great stories in here. So without further ado, let me bring in Matt. Hey, Matt, what's going on, bud?
Izzy, how you doing, brother?
I'm good, man. It's just so good to see you. I know we got to chat for about 15 minutes or so before we kicked this thing off. But man, I'm so lucky to have met you. I know God brought us together for a reason. And, by chance, you took my fingerprints and the rest is history.
Uh, First of all, I was terrified of you because how big you are. So I wasn't doing nothing but taking your prints. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All day long.
Yeah, I kind
But
of.
isn't it crazy? It's crazy how we met. It really is. It's just happened 10 minutes. So like, man, we made a quick connection just because we had things in common, and it's just crazy that here we are today.
Yeah, I was reading your book. Didn't realize. So I lived in Zion, which is the city that you're a police officer in,
Hmm.
and honestly, because I was an empty nester, it's not like I was doing a lot of checking on the criminal history of Zion at the time when we moved in. I didn't realize it was such a tough town. To be honest with you, we moved in right next to the high school. We thought it was going to be awesome and no issues at all. And to be honest with you, we got exactly what we expected, nothing at all. It was wonderful living there. So if you read Matt's book here, it's a tough town, but it's made up of some amazing people. Even some of
Hmm.
them tough characters are great. There's a taco place right around the corner from where we lived, and a guy, I'm pretty sure he wanted to steal my truck, but he was awesome. I love talking to him every time I'd show up. He'd go, "Nice Jeep, man," and we ended up chit chatting every time I pulled in to get some tacos. But I think that just goes to show that if you don't take the time to get to know people and chat with people, that you don't get to know their heart. You just never know.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that is such a true statement. There's our town is so beautiful. Um, it is rough. You, if I was to recommend where to live to a friend of mine, the west side where you were, that's the perfect spot.
Yeah.
The farther east you go, the more into town you go. That's where all the what I talk about in the book. That's where all the the madness happens.
Yeah.
But I still love it. Like we are such a unique city in Zion for how small we are, but we got some cool stuff there.
Well, something I didn't tell you is one of my guest speakers at my retirement last year. He's married to a Zion girl,
Are you
and
serious?
yeah, yeah, Brian. He's a great leader. He's a great boss, and he spent some time up at Great Lakes and found him a beautiful Zion woman that he spent the rest of his life with. So,
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about your book. You went, you know, you are a city kid. That's, I think, what you and I have a lot in common. Um, you did your thing as a young man. I barely got through school myself.
Mhm.
I don't think my grades were quite as bad as yours, as you describe here in the book, but
It was hard to be as bad as mine.
but you had some street smarts, and you were living your life. You had a family, and you watched a couple friends become police officers, and you thought, hey, maybe even with my past, I'm gonna give
Mhm.
it a shot. So you joined the force, and one thing led to another, and you experienced some things, and it put you in a dark place. And being a military guy, I can completely understand that. So why don't you take it from there and share a little bit of your story?
Yeah, yeah. It's very unlikely cop. I always tell that to people, like I'm the last person in the world that you think would be a police officer. I like you were saying, I barely passed high school. I remember I needed a over 50 on my chemistry. The second time I had to take chemistry, I had a over 50 on that test to even walk the stage. Barely made it. I think my GPA was like in the bottom 10% of the class. So all I wanted was that piece of paper. And I had
Yeah.
no motivation after that. I actually grew up, I didn't like police. I detested the police. I ended up, a lot of people that I grew up with and came up with were gang members and not so. I had a lot of friends that were productive citizens, but I was more influenced by my other group of friends that were in the streets, and I was a very angry young man. I remember when I was 21, I got caught with a loaded pistol that I used to carry everywhere as a kid. I had it illegally in my vehicle. I ended up getting charged with a felony for that. Luckily, I got it dropped down to a misdemeanor with a lot of money in negotiating. So I was like, okay, well, it's still a conviction on my record, and so the last thing on my mind at 21 years old, just getting off of that case, was that I would one day become a police officer. So when I was 28, that's when my friends started. Two of my friends that I had known started. They became officers, and I just thought, like, man, it's such a cool job, and I know I'm more street smart than these two, and even though I love them, but I just figured like I know I would be a good cop because I know the streets, and I've been there, and I would never judge anybody because I know what having a past is like. So I ended up testing. The first department I tested for after background checks, they threw me out, and luckily my hometown is Zion. I had a couple people vouch for me, and I was the very last person on that list. I always come out when you test to be an officer. There's a list of candidates, and I was dead last on the list, and I'm the only one left from that list. Everyone else either washed out or it just isn't there anymore.
Wow.
So yeah, so it's kind of a such super unlikely story. And I say that to say all this. When I got the job, I had no idea. I never researched. I still wasn't even a big fan of police. I got the job because I thought it'd be a cool job. I thought I'd be good at it. And plus, I was just a kid with no education that was making, I think I was making just barely 10, 12 bucks an hour. So this job was going to elevate me so I could like three times the pay, four times the pay.
Hmm.
So I looked at it that way, and I didn't look at any of the psychological side of it. So I was like shocked when I started. I did not know anything about what you were gonna endure, both in your personal life and your job life. I didn't know the repercussions of having a past and how other officers treated me when I got the job. And I didn't take into consideration all the street guys that I grew up with. They would turn their back on me too. So I had kind of a rough beginning to my career, and it just led me down this terribly dark path.
Mm. So you're take me to that cold night in January, was it 2013? Tell
Yes.
tell that story. It's amazing.
So I endured all of. I sunk down in the deepest depression ever because of everything. In this profession, you cannot talk about what is harming you. You cannot talk about your mental strife. You cannot say a word about it because this is all about being tough and enduring. And if you say something, if you say you're mentally weak or you're struggling, you're stigmatized. So I had to
Hmm.
keep all this stuff in, and that's what I'm a big advocate now for, just talking about this stuff. So I endured that for years, and I finally got to a breaking point. I used to take my all of my depression, I would drink it away. And Jim Beam is who my therapist was. So it ruined my marriage. I destroyed my own family. I ended up just sinking into the worst depression ever, and I had nobody to talk to about it. So eventually, I decided that, you know what, I don't even want to live no more. And little did I know that suicide actually takes the life of twice as many cops statistically than violence does. So it's a huge problem in our industry. Obviously, in the military, it's the same way, but
Hmm.
probably even a bigger problem. But yeah, that was my plan. I typed out a letter. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I was very intentional, very detailed in the letter, what I wanted to wear, my mom to put me in my funeral, what songs I wanted her to play, who I hated, who I loved. Um, and that was that. I had a plan. I practiced it, physically practiced it. And went on shift in 2013 in January, and it was a cold, horrible night. It's actually going to be the 10-year anniversary this month.
Hmm.
So it was a cold, horrible night. You know, on the lake in Zion, that wind can be, especially in January, 20, 30
Yeah.
below,
Yeah.
wind gusting. And I'm sitting there dwelling on this plan in the parking lot of what I'm going to do. I remember always practicing. I would um, do different motions, and when you're that manic, you cry in the car. When you're alone, you cry every time you're alone. That's at least for me. So I did my usual routine. I went in, I cried to myself, and I'm sitting there and didn't want to be bothered at work. I go in the Walmart parking lot, probably right by where you used to live, and I parked where nobody would bother me. So like 1, 2 in the morning, and I was at the other entrance where I know nobody would come to, even if they did stop by. It was the entrance that was closed. So I parked there, and I'm crying to myself. I'm going over this plan, and I remember watching like teardrops literally just falling out of my eyes. And I can honestly say that was about the lowest point I'd ever been at. Just the sickening way that I was blocking everything out to just get this pain over with. And all of a sudden, I see this lady walk out of Walmart, and she walks to a car. And I'm wondering, why are you in this parking lot anyway? Why are you even out? Because it's so cold out here. I remember the wind was so long, she had long black hair, and it was actually blowing sideways. And that was what I noticed first. Like, this lady's hair is literally sideways because of this wind. You have no hat on. You have no business being on this parking lot. So I I look over at her, and of course, she's like 75 yards that way. And of course, she sees a squad car and starts walking right towards it. And
Hmm.
I'm like in this lowest spot crying, and I'm instantly become enraged. Why are you bothering me? Just leave me alone. Go away. Um, I just want to dwell on what I got to dwell on. So sure enough, she comes all the way, and I wasn't even very polite to her. She knocks on the window, and I roll it down maybe just this much. And she just sticks her hand in, and then she hands me something, and then she said, "You need this." And then she turned around and walked away. And I was confused, and I seen what she handed me. I looked down, and it was a Red Cross, and it took me a long time to tell this story because I thought people would think I was crazy. But at that moment is the moment that I knew that this was not a human natural, like a natural moment. This was supernatural. This was God coming to me and giving me a message. And I clutched onto that cross, and I screamed out. I screamed out in my squad car, like literally audibly screamed out, like, I'm gonna die. Like, can you do something? I know there's a God. Can you do something? And he answered. And I've never had a moment that's the most surreal moment in my life. I just suddenly felt this peace come about me, and I I felt safe. It's hard to describe. I knew that I was not alone in that car, and I don't know if it was audibly or in my head, but I felt and heard the Lord tell me the sense that He'd been there this whole time with me and knew everything that I did, um, which was shameful because I lived a horribly shameful life um, during that time that I sunk into the depression. And He just said, just stop what you're doing and follow me. And that was when I just broke down. I wept, and I knew that was so real, but I didn't know how can I tell anybody that this just happened. So what I did do was I called my sister, who happened to work at a church, the church that you went to.
Mhm.
I had no idea. I'm like, I know you have a pastor in there. Lord knows I've avoided that place for ages. And I said, something weird happened to me, and I need to get in there. And so the next day, I go into his office. He met with me right away, and I said his name is Pastor George, and I said, hey, I introduced myself, and he said, you don't need to introduce yourself because I know who you are. He said, and I've heard all about you because your sister has been crying to me every every day, and
Hmm.
this one gets me emotional. He said, we've been praying that for a supernatural occurrence to happen in your life, and I just said, well, I think you got your supernatural occurrence, Pastor. I still didn't tell him exactly what happened, but that really just that's the most surreal thing ever. So it was at that moment that I knew that I needed real help. I knew that I had to stop chasing everything I was chasing and get actual help and start talking about this stuff. And that's what I learned when you talk about it. Satan operates in the dark. When you take what's in the dark and you bring it to light and you talk about it, and that's when real things can happen. And I got actual practical help, spiritual help. I gave my life to the Lord, and that's where my second life began. And it wasn't riding off into the sunset, second life, but the struggles and the stress are still there. But I know how to sustain it, and I know that I'm going to take what was about to kill me and I'm going to bring light into the world with it. And that's why we connect so well because
Yeah.
that's exactly what your motivation is too.
Yeah. So, uh, like I said, we've got tens of watchers right now, and this is going to be my first time saying it out loud. So I want to share my story with you because
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important. When we met, I was on a downward slide, and it was mostly professional. So for those of you that are watching and know that I was in the Navy and know what job I held, um, uh, I often fought with whether or not I was good enough. So you want to talk about worthiness? You talked about worthiness. I have a hard time praying because I don't believe I'm even worthy enough to talk to God. And I know that's my problem because I know He wants me to talk to Him. So that's neither here nor there. My issue was I never wanted to let my folks down ever as a command mast chief. And the imposter syndrome was strong as a leader, especially at Great Lakes, where eventually, about halfway through my tour, we started changing the curriculum there. And I took it upon myself to ensure that those sailors that I was leading knew that we weren't changing the curriculum because they were failing. We were changing the curriculum because the Navy needed it. And it started a very long downward spiral for me that literally didn't end until I retired. And I could tell you the moment, because I had fought with darkness and I had fought with, you talked about practicing and you talk about it in your book. You're very descriptive about how I'm going to do this. Um, I remember standing in the vehicle storage area of the USS Baton, which was my last ship. Right, that's where I graduated from. I retired
Mm-hmm.
from, and something whispered in my ear: "Bounce your bike off of two cars.
Mm-hmm.
No one will know. Just bounce your bike off of two cars." then nobody has to fine you. Heather doesn't have to deal with that. They'll never know that you did it on purpose because you ride like an idiot anyway. And something whispered in my ear, and I know what it was. Surely wasn't God speaking to me. And I would never do that to Reagan. I would never do it to the people I love. And oh, sorry, Reagan. I just did that on live. And I would never do that to Reagan. I would never do it to Heather either. I just did that on live. Anyway, I'd never do it to the people I love. Reagan was my first wife, by the way, Matt. I'd never do that to the people I love. And something was telling me to do it. And I had just kind of gotten to the end of my rope and I was ready to be done. I was ready to hang up my uniform. I was ready to start taking care of me, which is partially why I'm doing Motivate with this, because I think we should be taking care of ourselves. And I'd love to help people try to find that. And that's what you're doing in your book. It's what you're doing in My Father's Business, is you're taking care of people, especially those kids in your neighborhoods that maybe don't know how to take care of themselves. They haven't been shown that way yet. And I find that to be absolutely beautiful. You've taken an ugly time in your life. You found God. God found you and found a greater purpose for you and gave you that path. And I find that to be absolutely beautiful. So thank you for being strong enough to share your message and being an example to those of us who are on that slippery slope too.
Thank you too, brother. You know what's crazy is when you say that you heard the voice in your head. I've heard those same voices. I remember my big message. It was always when I was listening to music, and dark music. I would hear things like, "Today's the day. Get it over with. You're worthless. Look at all the destruction you've had." It's it's literally a demonic thing that will, when you're in that darkness. I really believe that you do hear stuff like that, and you don't know where it's coming from. But I've heard that literal same voice. So yeah,
Well,
that's crazy.
so I heard a great video. You know, I'm a TikTok addict like the rest of the country right now. But here's the message I have, and if you really believe that, those that are out there listening, is they're whispering because they're afraid of you. They're whispering to you because they want to get you out of the way. And if you can if you can fight through that, there's those evil things that are afraid of you know that you can do good. That's why they're
Yeah,
whispering at your weakest moments.
they're trying to derail
So
you. I
yeah,
think they see your potential.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. All right, so I want to talk real fast about hypervigilance. You talked about that in your book, and then you believe that that's definitely one of the things that led you there. And I could tell you that, and I shared something with you, and I want to share it with the rest of the world here. There was a book similar in size to your book. It's called Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. I attended a class just after I left RTC Great Lakes, and it was up at the Command Master Chief School in Newport, Rhode Island. And one of one of the seminars that they had just started doing up there was on this book. And basically, they take the book and they teach a lesson on cynicism and hypervigilance, and it really struck a nerve with me, and it was something that I came back from that course completely changed. In fact, I spent a lot of time with my command in Millington talking about. I'm going to put my glasses on because I'm old, but let me read you a quick excerpt from this. It says, if you want to determine if you become cynical, the doctor suggests taking the square root of the number of times you say BS on an average day. Most officers would probably score pretty high. If there's anything they don't agree with, it's automatic bullshit. But officers are taking the psychological shortcut, but just labeling things as BS. It's easier to shut down psychologically and distance yourself from the events around you. Officers can put up protective shields and not be affected by the events around them. They don't have to think about things they disagree with. They just label them as BS. The source of all BS, cynicism, everything is BS. Assholes are causing the BS. It's just bullshit, and this guy is an asshole. So I'm literally reading the book. I try to avoid cursing most of the time, but I think it gets the point across. You could put sailor instead of
Mm-hmm.
officer in there, or you could just leave it as it is for you specifically. Um, this book to me really opened my eyes to the vigilance that I had gone into in my leadership role, and how the cynicism creeps in and affects the way you're able to lead or impact the people that you come into contact with on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's so rampant in the PD, just the cynicism that I got to read that book. I mean, that couldn't be more spot on, because you think you don't trust anybody, because the people that you deal with on a daily basis, they're all liars. It's all BS. Everything they say,
Yeah.
therefore makes them it dehumanizes them, because they're and it puts you kind of plots you against them. Um,
Yeah.
and then you become cynical about everything they say. You become cynical about the stuff that they do, and eventually, it's just cynicism takes over everything, and including the most heinous things you see. You use cynicism to try to block it out and get through it, and
Mhm.
that is probably, oh, that's got to be on the top three problems in law enforcement. I'm sure it was a huge issue too in the military.
It is young people, especially. Even though I wouldn't always apply that to vigilance, but you, I use the term cynical a lot when I
Hmm.
come to describing even young people. It's this is BS. I can't believe it's this way. This is unfair, and then you just you blame away instead of
Hmm.
internalizing and attacking the problem and owning what you're responsible for.
Uh-huh.
Cynicism allows you to put up a wall and shut everything else down and not have to deal with it, um, which is unhealthy regardless of the job that you're in. But I think as a leader, if you can recognize the cynicism and try to break through that, both internally and externally with other people, then it makes you a little bit more effective when trying to, what leadership is, and that's influence people,
Uh-huh.
right? So if you can break through that cynicism, then you're making a difference in everyone's world, including your own.
Uh-huh. I always try to knock that out with a. I can't ever be cynical about another person whose actions or who they are, because to me, my new way of looking at it is everyone is made in the image of God, so I can't be, and I'm so imperfect myself. So how can I be cynical and dismissive of somebody else's word and life and how they are? So I think if you start that as a standard, that
Hmm.
everybody, we're all broken in some way, shape, or form, and I'll openly talk about how my brokenness, that I can't be cynical about another person, even if they're lying, even if they're doing something. I'm not going to judge them. I'm still going to treat them well, and they're still a human, and I'm no better than them. So I think that is a huge issue in policing, that you look down on people, and cynicism is the number one way to me that they can keep that wall up and justify that separation.
Yeah, you definitely touch on that several times in your
Hmm.
book. Something else you talk about over and over and over again in your book is love.
Hmm.
It's love, and
That's why I love your motto, man. Your motto, that is so
yeah,
perfect,
love
man.
you mean it, baby.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. I
it's
actually tell my
nothing.
boys that. I tell my boys that at MFB all the time. Like, don't be weirded out because I tell you I love you, because I
Yeah,
do, and I do mean it. I've just never had seen it as a phrase that is perfect.
I
But
love, like, literally. I sorry I cut you off, but every single person I meet, I start with love. You've got
yeah.
to start with love. And if you don't start there, you're not even giving them a chance, in my personal opinion. You got to come from a place of kindness and grace and caring, and understand that they're a human being going through the same crap that you're going through, and it's not fun. We're all in this together, and we're not going to survive. We're all going to die in this whole thing together, and you got to love that person next to you because they're going through the same crap.
Yeah. And it's contagious. It really is. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how we caught fire. It's just that you start off with that, and that's actually a commandment that we were given: love each other. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that what I recognize in your book as you go through this, I'm telling you, I would love to, if I had the time, I'd like to go through and highlight every time you write the word love in here.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, it literally, I think, is something that not only kept you alive, but it gives you something to look forward to in all of your endeavors. That's kind of what you
Yeah,
surround yourself with.
to get excited to love other people. I think the way that I see it is I consider myself, I was so wretched. I didn't get into too many details in the story out of respect for people around me. But I
Hmm.
was just a wretched dude who took advantage of the power he was given. And and I see God actually loved me. He still loved me through all of that. So
Mm,
I realized that, and I'm like, okay, well then I'm just gonna feed off of His love for me, and I'm just gonna love other people no matter what, because he was patient and still loved me. So it kind of goes hand in hand.
beautiful. That's awesome, man. All right. Well, I don't know. Was there anything else that Oh, yeah, let's talk about my father's business a little bit real quick, because I actually was gonna close on that. Heather's waving at me saying, "My father's business." That thing on his sweatshirt. Let's talk about my
Oh
father's
yeah,
business.
I just happen to wear this from my workout because it's cold out today. So
I'm a hoodie guy too. All my
oh
videos.
yeah.
I had somebody text me like, I get that it's cold up there, but the hoodies, I don't get it. Why are you always
Oh,
wearing a hoodie in your videos?" I'm like, it's comfortable. It keeps you
everyday
warm, and
everyday hoodie.
that's right.
Started
That's right. Somebody
starting
who lives
in
in Florida, obviously, right?
yeah, yeah, starting in October and going through probably end of May. It's hoodie season.
That's right. Yeah. So let's real quick. I really want to advertise my father's business, and I had kind of a quick announcement afterwards. But um, talk to us about what you do with my father's business, what it's all about.
So when that pastor I talked about earlier, I kind of went under his mentorship, and eventually he saw that I knew so many people in Zion. He asked me, "Could you start a little group or a youth group for some of these kids?" And I didn't want to at first because I didn't know how to, I didn't have any confidence. But eventually, after a lot of many months of prodding from the pastor, I started it with my son and five of his friends. There's a little
Mm,
gym at our church, so I was like, you know what? Let me get the pastor off my back. Come over, bring your friends, and I'll buy you his pizza or I'll read you a verse or something. I had no idea what I was doing. So I had him there with six kids that started this whole thing and bought $10 worth of Caesar's pizza and fed them. I read them. I don't remember what I read them. Something that first week, and I was like, okay, boom, done, over with. So they begged me to do it another week. So we had 10 the next week, and then on the third week, I didn't want to do it. So I told Pastor, "Why don't you? Hey, there's some kids coming. You want to take these?" And he would let. He's like, "No, no, 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 no." He said, you see how patient God was with you. You're gonna do this, and you're gonna see it through. So I'm like, all right. So that was when I decided that you know what, I have to dive into this. So we just started having every Friday, and it eventually turned into 20 kids, 30 kids, so many kids that ended up coming in there. We had to you couldn't even hardly walk in that gym anymore.
mm,
So it was so out of control. Me and my sister, she came in on it, and we decided that, you know what, let's make this official. Let's make this an official. It eventually became a 501c3. We call it a drop-in center is what they call it now. And eventually in Zion, the city that I love so much, word spread around the street that there's this cop that opens up a gym and feeds everybody, and you'll learn something. So we call it halftime. So I give them a
yeah, I
message,
love
and I
halftime. Yeah.
tell them about the gospel, tell them about practical things. I've brought in different speakers, and we do a lot of everything. We try to get them jobs. We work on expunging records. We work on helping driver license stuff. I mean, you name it. We find out whose lights are off at their house. Even we find out who's hurting. We get them legal help. We try to
Mm,
squash street beefs. We do it all there now, and it's really become something so magnificent that it's the most rewarding thing. It's hard work because we deal with a lot of dangerous kids now, like the most dangerous in our city come. And I always tell people this: we got so many victories. Like the Lord has saved so many, like He saved me. He saved so many through our group. But we do have a lot of sad and heartbreaking times, because in our small group that you've seen in Zion alone,
mhm,
we started keeping statistics in 2017. We've had over 50 of our members be hit with gunshots,
mm.
with gunfire, and we've lost 14 or 15 now. So the the necessity of it is so needed, because you're literally saving these kids on a Friday night where they could be out doing something that
Yeah.
they shouldn't be doing, and
Right.
we're saving them just for that night, and then we're implanting um, some spiritual the necessity of God in their life. And at the same time, it's so much fun. We've had so many great athletes come in and out of there, and we get so much public support now, and I get to talk about it on awesome platforms, and
Yeah.
and people can share, can just be a part of seeing something that's really was supernaturally made, and it's been so cool. So you've
That's
met a lot of our
amazing.
kids, and you were
Yeah.
there that
Yeah.
night. They loved you. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
there was but we never stop. It's the same dynamic.
Yeah, I actually had a sailor from Zion as well.
Yep,
La
Cameron. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Cameron.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you got us in front row seats to that. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen in
yeah,
person. I couldn't
yeah.
help. I'm weeping during this thing. I'm like crying. I'm looking around. I'm like in tears because like it was so cool
Yeah.
to see them marching. And oh, I'll never forget that. That was one of the top 10 moments of my life being in, and I appreciate you big time for that.
Oh, yeah, man. Wish I could have done more for you. Well, speaking of doing more, so I'm selling these shirts online, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the things I'm going to do is I'm tithing. So
Uh-huh.
10% of essentially 10% of what we make through the mindset gear for the motivator through Motivate with Is, we're going to give it to different organizations that take care of veterans.
Uh-huh.
But I know you're not a veteran organization, but the first month of sales, I want you to know it might not be a ton of money, but I'm gonna send you a check from Motivate with
Oh my
Is
gosh, that's so
to my
cool.
father's business. So that's the official announcement that 10% of our sales we're going to tithe to my father's business this
Thank
month,
you, brother.
and it might not be a big check,
Hey,
you
anything
know.
helps us. We got mouths to feed, so anything helps. That's
Yeah,
so cool.
the t-shirt sales and sweatshirt sales that we're doing literally is just to keep the business running. It's not
Hmm.
to pay our bills. So we just figured I thought it'd be a really good way to kind of give back is through the work here is to give money to different organizations. I know I'm looking to give to a couple veterans retreats,
Hmm.
but for the first month at least, I want to give to my father's business. I've known you a long time, brother, and
My
it's been
man,
an
my
honor.
man.
It's been an honor.
That's
So
so cool.
yeah, I'll do what I can.
I
Giving
got you.
back here.
I gotta get one of them shirts too,
Yeah, man.
for sure.
I'll send you a
Yep,
link to the store.
yep. Let me. Yep.
For those that are watching, if you want to check it out, the link to the shop is on both Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to follow me on TikTok. I've got 91
Yes.
followers on
Yep. We're gonna
TikTok.
get you. We're
When I
gonna
go
get you
over
a lot
100, I'm going
more.
to celebrate. I'm going to celebrate. But it's a brand new account. I've only had it a couple weeks, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun because it's a way to give out a little bit of motivation every day. Give out some workout advice. Give out some, you know, just some, it's mind, body, and soul, right? Because if you don't have that triad together, working towards making yourself healthy, happy, and finding peace, it's just never going to happen. You're just never going
Hmm.
to find it. So mind, body, and soul on a daily basis for Motivate with This. Um, so thanks to you, Matt. Appreciate it. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about before I sign
Oh
off here?
no, we're good, man. I appreciate being on, man. I love you guys, man, big
Yeah,
time. I've never stopped following you, and I just feel like we have this bond that we even look like. So I'm the mini
I
version
know.
of you,
It's
yeah, with the bald head. Yeah,
bald
you
head.
know?
Yeah. Decided to wear a hat today. I wanted to show off my anchor hats here that I said I'd never own, but now I'm retired. I do it.
I'm just
So,
jealous of the beard, man. I can't grow one. We were able to. My beard is weak, man. It's weak. It's
yeah.
terrible.
Well, again, thanks for everybody that's watching out there. I appreciate you joining us. And those of you that are going to watch it, it's recorded. You can check me out on YouTube. I have like 37 subscribers, so let's grow
Hey,
that. And
Sharon, we need to follow this man. He's the man. He's one of my heroes.
I appreciate it, Matt. You have no idea, man. And buy this book. Go to Motivate with it, or go to My Father's Business. The link is below, and check out this book. It is a quick read, and it's amazing, man. The way you wrote it for being a D student, you did pretty doggone good,
Yeah,
brother.
yeah.
You did
Well,
really good,
thank you.
man.
And one last, like, all the money from that book doesn't go to, it goes to my father's business. That's straight goes right to them.
Awesome. So I hope you see a spike, at least 20 book sales in the next
Oh, that'd
couple
be great.
days.
That
Yeah,
would be that would be
I'd
that would help us
appreciate
a lot.
it. And check out my shop online. Eventually, my page will be up and running. Going to be doing the coaching and the personal training here come February, March timeframe. And if you need a motivational speaker, I'm happy to travel and come out and talk to you. So give me a shout. And again, support my father's business, especially if you're up in Chicago. If you're pushing boots, check it out. Zion's a great city. I lived there for 3 years and I loved it. And I met a wonderful person like Matt. So again, thanks, Matt. All the best to
Appreciate
everybody.
you, brother.
Brother, mean it. Love you. Mean it.
Love you too.
Motivate. Out here.